So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Cattani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcattani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What is up, guys? And welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Jonny Cattani, and I am joined today by Omar Ruiz. Omar is co-founder, hello, hi guys, of LeRu Investments, LLC, and Home Choice Property Management, Inc. LeRu Investments acquires value-add multifamily and single-family homes to increase value, improve resident appeal, and achieve high investment returns for investors and the communities. Omar, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Love to have you. Very excited to get into today's conversation. A lot to talk about, but as we do with all of our guests, come take us back to the beginning. You know, where were you at before and what led you to LeRu and Home Choice Property?
Well, many years ago, going back into, I actually went to a big, massive seminar at the convention center, the LA Convention Center. You know, back then I was kind of at a point in my life where I was just kind of seeking for different, things to kind of, I guess, direction to kind of set my life forward. You know, I liked real estate, but I didn't really know too much about it. I had skills, I was employable and all that. Just look for something better, whether it be some kind of business idea. I was always thinking about business ideas and all that. And me and my partner now, Jeffrey, went to the Wealth Annex, was called back then. Yeah, it was big. It was this big, massive event. It was like 2006, I believe it was. So it's that long ago. And everybody was there. Kiyosaki was there. Rich Dad Poor Dad guy. Everybody talking about every kind of real estate was there, whether it was flipping houses, wholesaling, notes, development, multifamily, industrial. Even Donald Trump was there. Actually, this was this was like back before anybody he was even out there. I mean, he was out there, but he wasn't running for president or anything like that. But anyways, that's a level of the people that were there, and learned a lot of stuff. And I really kind of gravitated towards the multifamily because I always liked the idea of having more people under less roofs, helping you to pay the mortgage, and then creating the cash flow there on top of that. So
absolutely.
If one tenant leaves, you still got other tenants helping you to pay for the expenses. So that concept right there made a lot of sense to me. And so we actually didn't get into real estate investment. We actually started in property management because we realized how important the property management portions and the systems and procedures for that were so important to the success of apartments and the multifamily business. So we actually started managing some properties for some contacts of ours, and learned the ropes through that. Built up our systems over time, and then when the Great Recession hit, afterwards we kind of started seeing opportunities in our backyard here. I'm in California, but now all of my investments are out in the state of Texas.
Oh wow!
Yeah. We just sold our last property in 2020. The year of the pandemic. And now everything's now out in Texas. And yeah, that's pretty much how things started for us.
That's awesome. I love that. Love that you went and I'm such a huge proponent of going to those events and getting around the people who, are the best and, kind of learning that knowledge, because that's really what's going to propel you forward. So were you in the corporate world before that?
I was. And actually that's why I was really good at the due diligence part of it, because I had worked before in the aerospace industry.
Oh, very cool.
So, and what I actually, and in aerospace, I knew a lot about the manufacturing side of it, but I was actually in the quality control side of it. So I was doing a lot of internal audits and also representing the companies on the external audits. So I would actually be the guy, getting the third degree and answering questions of auditors and all that.
Oh, wow.
So, having that experience really helped me out when it comes to, getting the property in the contract and doing the due diligence part of it, and I really found that very enjoyable, because to me, it's like you're being kind of like an investigator.
Totally.
And if you're a curious type of person, it allows you the freedom to ask a lot of questions and understand things. You don't have to know everything 100%, but you're having some understanding about why something is working a certain way, leads you to conclusions.
Absolutely. It's a very good, for those that are super curious, right? For curious individuals like you, like myself, it's one of the parts of this that really, kind of, like is good for that, right? Because, you can ask a question and then that leads to more questions, and all you're doing is just, CYA, covering your butt, right? And the more questions you ask, and the more you'll uncover, and then the more you do, the more, so I love that a lot. It's due diligence is super important. It's important to know, not only what you're investing in, but who you're investing with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's in real estate, there's a lot of that, fact finding, gathering information, and all that. So if you have that curious side about you, it's very fulfilling.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So you guys are you vertically, does LeRu and so does Home Choice Property Management, I assume, manages all of LeRu's?
No, actually, we only we used to when we had properties here in California.
Got it.
So Home Choice only manages properties here in Southern California.
Got it.
So when we go out of state, we contract with third-party management. And so we tell them, hey, these are the systems that we're used to. When we're interviewing third-party management, we'll say, hey, this is our checklist. This is how we like to get things done. This is our procedures. Can you guys follow these systems? And
I'm sure it probably helps having all that experience. You can really do your due diligence on vet property managers.
Yeah. And sometimes we you learn both ways. We learn from them, but then they also learn from us as well.
Totally. So since you've liquidated all your California holdings, is Home Choice? Oh wait, I guess you guys obviously also manage other people's properties. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for yours.
Right. Yeah, and that's why when we were talking about tenant scams and all that stuff. It's
let's get into that. That's one topic you kind of mentioned. So there's some scams, I guess, the tenants are running. So get into it. Let's hear about these.
Well, tenants have been doing scams, and for since I've started, you've seen all these scams, and it's not the majority of tenants. It's a small percentage of these people that are trying to game the system. Okay. But why I think it's more important now is because I've been seeing it a lot more prevalent lately, really actually probably since the pandemic. More prevalent, and people being more bold about it. And I think I talked about it, in the pre-interview and all that. I've been involved in the business since before the Great Recession in 2008, and back then, my partner, he actually helped people to modify their mortgages, do the loan modifications and all that stuff. We do it, even I myself had some family members that needed some help with that, and some friends, and we were very good at short sales back then. And the short sale process with getting bank approval was very similar to the loan modification process. So we were able to help some folks along in that process. And what I think has happened since those times, people like Hank Paulson, who used to be the ex-Treasury Secretary, they used to talk about moral hazard. And I think moral hazard has been more acceptable now in our society now, because the federal government has been so willing to come in and pump money into the system, give people money, subsidize here, subsidize there, provide assistance here, provide assistance there, bail out companies and all that. And, I was just kind of thinking about that recently. But in the beginnings, when we first started in property management, what you typically would see are people responding to a rental ad. If you had a vacant unit, and one of the things we would see is that they would actually send, because they weren't super sophisticated back then, but they would send you like a Word document that said, "Hey, they would actually be from out of the area and say, 'Hey, here's my employer,' whatever." And it's a Word document. Anybody can type up a Word document, totally. Put a little, whatever graphic in the corner, and try to play that off as something legitimate.
Absolutely.
So we were like, no, we're not. This is not going to be good enough. You need to send us something better. And one of the kind of together with that kind of scheme is that they would actually try to wire you like money, or say they would send you money through Western Union, because back then the payment systems were not as high tech as they are nowadays. Now you have all these Zelle and Venmos and whatnot. But back then it was that way. So you had people trying to, back then it was more like they were trying to kind of like get money from you. Now what I'm seeing now is people trying to scam either prospective tenants or helping prospective tenants that are in difficult financial situations get into a unit, okay, and try to bypass the qualification process. Really try to not bypass the qualification process, I should say, but try to scam their
Manipulate
way.
It, basically.
Manipulate it. There you go. That's the right word. Manipulate the qualification process. And so what I've been seeing lately here, and there's actually a Facebook post. I actually have it up, but there's now with social media, there's actually a price list on Facebook right now where you can go on there and you can actually buy, I'm looking at it right now, you can actually buy paycheck stubs. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Well, that's a cheap one. That's the easy one. Paycheck stubs will cost you $15. A personal bank statement will cost you $75. Oh, a business bank statement will cost you $150. And then you go down the list, you can actually get a full tax return for $160. Can you believe that? So,
wow.
Yeah. Here, if you
good for them. Hey, I got a loan coming up for a development deal. I hit them up. Just kidding.
There you go. There you go.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so this is less like trying to get money and more trying to help people who don't have money get into places. So I guess like ultimately, so like is something kind of wrong where they can afford it, but it doesn't look like they can, so they're trying to get in, or like they're going to get into this place and then in 6 months they're going to be evicted because they can't afford it? Or
okay, I'll give you an example. My guy here, we were actually just huddling right now, and he was updating me to prepare for this podcast here. And he was telling me here, we had an applicant, and I should also say before, like, one of the skills that helped me out in life back when I used to work in the printing industry when I was like in my early 20s. Okay. So that kind of helped me out to really kind of scrutinize, details and documentation. And I've taught those skills over to my people here. So they've gotten really good at seeing inconsistencies in paycheck stubs, bank statements, but then also doing the background search to verify documentation. So this example he was just telling me was that there was an applicant. She actually provided bank statements that they look legit. He said that. So they look legit, have to look cool. She was saying that she was getting direct deposit from her employer. Okay. And on the bank statement, you can see that. You can see the direct deposits coming in there every 2 weeks, so on and so forth, with the company name and all that. So this is something very important for landlords to make sure that they do employment verifications. Okay. And what he found out, they would, when my guys were doing searching on the company name, they weren't coming up on the Secretary of State website. Okay, so they were unregistered. Maybe for the research, it's not coming up. Okay. On their application, they're required to put down who their employer is and then the supervisor's name of the company and how to contact them, right? So now they start following up with those people. And what they noticed is that this particular applicant was actually a foster parent. They're actually, fostering kids out there.
Interesting.
And they noticed that the same name they put as the supervisor at their employment was the same co-parent foster, the co-parent with the foster kid. Okay. So they basically had, their partner there, disguising as their employment supervisor.
Right.
Okay, so right away, right there, so then they started digging further. And same thing with the tenancy verification. Okay, this is another important thing. You got to verify tenancy. Okay, so they were having a tricky time. There was something going on with trying to verify the tenancy. So what my guy did is that he searched the complex and then the property management behind it. And it turns out that they had a pending eviction for $9,000 in back rent.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that's, I think, what's happening is because with the and probably due to the pandemic, I don't really know what the backstory is, but if you have people that haven't been making income or haven't been receiving income and they've, overstayed at a certain place, okay, they know that, an eviction is going to be coming down the line. And so what this individual seemed like they were doing is that they were trying to bounce and go to the next place before that eviction documentation went on the record. So, you follow me?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, exactly. Because once it comes up, it's you're going to see that.
Right.
And so I think there's going to be a lot of that. That's why it's so important to verify tenancy and dig deeper into that.
Absolutely. And then are you seeing this, is this more like workforce housing, or are you seeing this all the way up to A-class properties?
I think it's more on the workforce housing side of things. Now, I mentioned before on the with the fake paycheck stubs and all that stuff. We actually had 2 applicants at the same unit. And once again, my guys, what they did is like they saw some inconsistencies with the paycheck stubs. So they called in, and here's this was amazing to me. It just goes to show how prevalent this thing is. So Same thing. They were having a hard time. This time they were having a hard time with getting the employment verification. Okay, so they were calling somebody. There's something weird, just something was not right. And then he was saying, see, here's the thing when you look at a paycheck stub, okay, is that everything should be consistent. You know, the grading, the lines, you know, it's basically like a spreadsheet there that's giving you information.
Right.
Okay. But you have to look for inconsistencies, not just in how things are lined up and all that, but just in the overall document. And what he noticed was something in the footer. The footer was different than one of the other paycheck stubs. Okay, that was the red flag right there. It wasn't the actual information in there. It was that the footer was different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good attention to detail.
Yeah, yeah. So he had to trick it down with the employment verification. So now he searched the company, he goes online, he finds a company, he calls up the company, he talks to somebody there, and they're like, no, this person doesn't work here. And we've been getting inundated with people asking us if people are working here.
Oh, wow.
So whoever was selling this person those fake check stubs,
the payroll team, probably.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, maybe it was a payroll team or somebody, or who knows. But anyways, they were using the same company for a variety of different people.
Oh, wow.
And so this company was just like, no, we don't know this person. And people keep calling us for, you know, to verify employment for a bunch of other people. There's some kind of, they knew there was some kind of scam going on.
Right.
So seeing it multiple times like that, I've never seen it like this before, ever, in you know, in my whole time. And a lot of it is because, you know, in social media now, you got these scammers that can advertise their services. You know, it's easy for them to find customers that need this kind of help.
Totally. Yeah. And that's, yeah, it is, you know, certainly on one hand, you feel for them, right? Because if you have to do that, then, you know, you're in probably a bit of a hardship. At least I would hope that's why you're doing it. You're not just doing it to be a bad person. So you hate to see that, of course, but of course, on the other side, like, you know, you're running a legitimate business here. You have legitimate, you know, and they're just not going to understand that, right? Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have to get evicted, and that's hard on everyone. And, you know, those are the things. I don't think people understand that sometimes the reason that there are all these hoops you have to jump through to become a resident of these places is because of this exact thing, this exact scam thing. And also, like, you know, we're trying to run a business here. Of course, we want to provide a place for people to live, but in order to do that, we need to have good tenants who pay their rent. And, you know, it's kind of a cycle there. So, but that's very, very fascinating. This one company's like, okay, maybe we need to change up our payroll.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jonathan, there's tons of people out there legitimately need housing.
Yeah.
You know, those are the people that, yeah, exactly. Those are the people that you want to, you know, provide the housing for.
Exactly. And I just read an article in Wall Street Journal yesterday about the Biden administration trying to really pump up the workforce housing and kind of low income. And of course, their idea to do it is to go to these cities who are, like, you know, already putting the infrastructure in place. And it's like, okay, but no city's putting infrastructure in place for workforce housing and low income housing. Everybody wants, you know, minimum B class, you know, so that's why this you know, all these developers are building A class because that's what these cities want. And they're like, well, we're going to start giving incentives for workforce housing and these municipalities who put the infrastructure in place. It's like, okay, but it's not enough, you know? So it'll be interesting to see.
No, I mean, what, you know, as far as like affordable housing and all that, you know, you got, you know, especially here in California, you got a lot of NIMBYism. You know, people talk a big game and they like to say, yeah, we're for affordable housing, but you know what? Their actions speak louder than words.
Oh my God.
And, you know, and it's like, I mean, here for a developer to build here, you can't pencil in, you know, even a B-class property. You have to build, you know, with high-end amenities, high-end fixtures and finishes and all that for that developer, you know, to make some money.
And not only that, it could take you 3 years before you even start
Correct.
breaking ground.
Yes, exactly. With all the pushback from, the local people and all that. And, I think it's better off for developers to kind of look at the outskirt cities,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
where land is cheaper, where you don't have as much hoops to jump through.
You
Okay.
almost welcome it in those markets.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, so yeah, but I mean, even even on the house flipping side of it, there's scams being run out. And
Really, what kind of scams are you seeing over there?
well, just a few years ago, we were flipping a house out here in Long Beach, California, and one day I was leaving the site there. I had one of my workers there. And as I'm getting ready to pull out, I see him, in the middle of the street trying to flag me down to stop from leaving. So I come back, and there was a young couple there. Okay. And this is actually has to do with fake ads, especially on Craigslist. For some reason on Craigslist, and I think there was even one, maybe even been on Zillow. I can't remember exactly.
Interesting.
But for sure Craigslist. Right. Craigslist is really bad with this. But somebody had posted a fake ad. This was a house that we were flipping. We were selling it. We weren't renting it. But this young couple, they stopped by. They had seen an ad. I believe it was on Craigslist. Can't remember exactly, but they had seen an ad online that this house was renting, and it was renting below market rates. So that's why they were excited. And, the house was totally rehab, just beautiful inside and everything, right? So they thought they were getting a great deal.
Right.
So they show up, and I start talking to them because I'm thinking in my head that they're buyers. And as I'm asking them questions, it sounded to me like these people are renters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked them, it's like, are you looking to buy or are you looking to rent? They're like, no, we're looking to rent. I was like, oh, okay, this house is being sold. It's not being rented. It's like, and that's when, but we saw this ad, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, can you show me the ad? And sure enough, they show me their phone, the ad's on the phone, the house is there, the address and everything. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I got to tell my team about this. We got to notify Craigslist. And multiple times we've had to notify Craigslist about fake ads. And so what they'll do is that they try to get if you have a lockbox combination in there, especially if, usually when houses are listed, there's going to be some kind of combo box there. So they'll disguise themselves as a listing agent. Mm. Okay. And they'll say, hey, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to bring a client, blah, 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 blah. Can you give me the lockbox code? Okay. All right. You give them the lockbox code. Now they have the keys to the house, right? And now they could put a squatter in there. They could rent it to somebody, and then they say, yeah, okay, the house is yours. You just have to wire me the security deposit and first month's rent. Okay, so now the scammer, he takes off with the money. Meanwhile, the victim there, they're thinking they just got a house and they got the keys, and it's just bad news for everybody there now. Now you got to give them the bad news and all that, so, and maybe even have to evict somebody.
Interesting. And what's blowing my mind, like we were talking about offline, is how much effort these scammers, like they have legitimate websites and emails and, all of the things that you would need to, like, if you were just doing a high level, due diligence, all of the things would check out for that high level due diligence, to check on these scammers. Like they've got all the things in place to make it seem legit, which is why people get, and they're getting more and more sophisticated, obviously, as more and more technology is coming out to try to combat it. Yeah. And it's so fascinating how hard they're working. And if they just put this towards something legitimate, they would probably do well.
Yeah. Well, working, I told you, I used to work in the printing industry many, many years back. And what I remember back then is that in order to print print, like say like a magazine, a full-on magazine, or a nice document that some graphic artists created and put all that. You have to kind of bring a bundle of all the individual graphics and fonts together to be able to put that on the press and print it out and all that stuff. With the invention of PDF really revolutionized the whole printing industry, because now you didn't have to bring all the bundle of all the individual graphics, fonts, and all that
All
stuff.
of that would just talk to the software and load it automatically, basically.
Exactly. So it's like the PDF document would kind of like it just packaged everything in one document. So now you didn't have to provide, there is what were called links. So if you had a graphic in there, it would be a link to the overall document. And now you didn't have to do all that. You have a PDF, and then you just give that to the printer, and then the printer can work off that and create their full color process and all that stuff. So, but now what's happening now is that if you have a PDF document, you can actually before you couldn't edit PDFs.
Right.
Okay. Now you can. Now they've made it so that you can edit PDFs. And that's, I think, what's opened the floodgates to more scammers being able to provide fake documents now. And that's why it's so
they'll take a legitimate file, load it into some software.
Yeah, exactly. And and now
they'll take that legitimate piece of paper or legitimate document, manipulate it, but it still looks legit because they're only changing a few words or fields that need to be filled out, but the structure of the document remains the same, which ultimately is legit, or was, I guess.
Exactly. So that's made that process easier for these scammers out there. So that's why landlords have to be just a lot more careful. It's especially mom and pop type landlords, because those are the guys that are going to be easier to scam if they don't know this stuff. If you have teams that are trained well and all that, and they're doing all the qualification processes and verifying employment, verifying tenancy, they're going to be more capable of catching those things. But what I see sometimes with, especially new time landlords, they're so anxious. They're excited because it's their first income property. Okay, and they're so anxious and ready to get a tenant in there and start collecting rent, start getting some income coming in and all that stuff, that they rely too much on maybe how a tenant comes across. They think, oh, this guy feels pretty good, I kind of like them, they had good rapport or whatever. And then they wind up getting into a nightmare situation where the tenant is not as nice as who they weren't, who they thought they were. Yeah. And now, now they have to, now they haven't paid the rent. And now they have to evict them, and it winds up creating a big nightmare for them.
Gosh, that's crazy. Well, I really appreciate you kind of shedding that insight and that light on that. And I know that'll bring a ton of value. There's definitely some listeners out there probably self-managing, may be familiar with some of these and may not be, as well as asset managers. I imagine some of the large property management companies are aware of these and have things in place like you guys do, obviously. But still good to understand that, because I didn't realize the extent that people are going, because to me, a scam is like someone's trying to get money in some form or fashion, but these are like, hey, I need a place to live. And so it's like one of those things where you're like, gosh, like I feel for you, but also like, hey, you can't do that. So interesting.
Yeah. It's just scammers are taking advantage of people that are vulnerable out there.
Yeah.
They charge them for a fake document. Hey, give me money. Here's your fake document. And then whether the person is able to get a place or not, they don't care, because they already got paid. They're off to the next victim.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right. Exactly. So that's where the scam is in the document. And then what you do with the document after that, they don't really care. So makes sense. Cool. Well, like I said, I appreciate you sharing all this insight. We're coming up on time here, but I do have 5 questions I ask all of my guests. Final
Sure.
5. So first question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Oh, wow, I've gotten so much advice from our mentors, but one of the things that comes to mind was from a mentor who owned many properties, many rentals, and he actually did not like when apartment buildings had a lot of 3-bedroom units. And
Makes
reason,
sense.
reason being is because the utilities tended to be higher because you got more people in there, using the showers and the toilets and the water utilities and all that. But so that always stayed with me. And what I've come from that is that, if you're a family are typically going to want to rent a house versus an apartment with no yard or anything like that. So it kind of puts you at a competitive disadvantage, a 3-bedroom apartment versus a 3-bedroom house, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't really see 3-bedroom, maybe townhouse style. You might see it, but yeah, you don't really see it too much anymore.
Well, where I have seen it, they're usually high vacancy.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It doesn't feel like there's a need for that. I think by the time you get to that size, you're just going to go buy a house.
Right.
For sure. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Well, I've helped out a lot of other investors to, jump on board with us, and they've had positive experiences and they keep coming back. So I feel good about that I'm helping those people out. But also I've helped out people that, they didn't get involved with us, but what they've learned from us, they've been able to go out there. And I remember this couple that, used to hang out with us. They were, they're on their way to retirement and all that. And they actually started buying, little single family houses to supplement their retirement because they're on the verge of retirement. And, they came to a realization like, wow, well, we might not have enough to retire. And
Totally.
so that I feel very good about that.
Awesome. I love that. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Oh, non-real estate related book. I'm actually in the middle of reading this book right now. It's from Dalio, and it's called The Changing World Order.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
I've heard of it. Definitely a couple guests have mentioned it. Long, right? It's a really big book.
Yes, very long. I'm actually I'm almost to the end now.
Oh, nice.
So it was a journey on
I
that
can
book.
imagine.
But it's kind of more big picture stuff,
Yeah.
kind of trying to look into the future and what's kind of coming down the pipeline. So, if you're a person that's into like economics and kind of macroeconomic picture, I think you'd enjoy that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely on the list. He's a very intelligent human. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower, I would say my ability to look beyond the surface. I talked a little bit earlier about doing due diligence and kind of, the verification process and, and this whole topic here of these scams, being able to kind of dig a little deeper, look for anomalies, inconsistencies, abnormalities. That's something that has always made me very inquisitive. Why is this like that? Why is that different than this? And so that's something that I think I have a knack for.
Love it. Awesome. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Oh, that would be through my website, LeRuInvestments.com. And, if you're interested in getting involved in some projects from us, you can go to my contact us page and, reach out to us there.
Awesome. Omar, thank you so much for your time and all of your insight. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a great time. Thank you.
Of course. My pleasure. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.